Well, thank you, and it's good to be here today. The last time I spoke at a WorldDAB GA was in Paris in 2009, I think. It was always good to see so many of my friends instead of being, stuck in this office. I'm talking to you from Brisbane in Australia, which is where I live now, and I wish I could show you around. Actually, you know what? Come with me. Australia is one of the oldest commercial radio markets in the world. It started in 1922 in Sydney in New South Wales. The first radio station here in Brisbane was for QG from the government, but by 1940 there were four more, including 4BC and 4BH, which are still broadcasting here today. Down there, 9 out of 10 people listen to the radio every single week. 9 out of 10 people. And actually that figure is the same in most countries in the world, however you work out the figures, whether through ppm or through diaries or through telephone calls. Video didn't kill the radio star, it turns out. And 4BC and 4BH are still broadcasting, still on AM, but also on DAB. As Joan Warner will probably say later today, 30.9% of all radio listening in Australia's capital cities is to DAB+. That's more than twice the amount of listening online. But radio is increasingly multi-platform, and it's why here in Australia, if you want a new radio, you'll find a great choice of DAB+ and internet radios at stores like JB Hi-Fi here. Although things are changing, this is the amount of radio listening over the last 20 years, and it's from the UK, not here in Australia. And it's pretty good. It's a nice graph. The total amount of radio listening hasn't changed that much until we see a breakdown of age groups. And when we look at that, it looks as if things are changing. Younger people are spending less time with the radio, at least in the UK. If you look at the devices that people use to listen to audio, and again these are UK numbers, then older people mostly listen to the radio. And young people, well, yes, they listen to the radio as well, but they listen to their smartphone more. And what we know also from the UK is that while live radio does really well on smart speakers and on computers, live radio does less well on smartphones. On smartphones, people listen to on-demand rather than live. A lot is changing in radio right now. Here's the ABC, a set of fancy studios here on Brisbane's South Bank. But a mixture of new technology and the pandemic has meant that lots of shows here and on commercial radio are coming from home. And while radio is coming from home, more people are staying at home to work as well. It's made a dramatic change to radio listening in many places. Radio has historically been driven by habit. It's there when we wake up, it's there when we get in the car, it's there as a companion to work, to cooking or to gardening. But our habits have been forced to change by the pandemic. So this means that our media consumption changes too. While Brisbane has been fairly unaffected by the pandemic over the last few months, Melbourne is only now coming out of lockdown. And that lockdown really changed how Melburnians listened to the radio, seeing a dip for breakfast listening, but a real jump in mid-mornings to hear the latest numbers from local government, but also because people's day starts later if you don't have a commute. And those numbers are great news for radio, because it really shows that radio is a thing that people turn to when they need to, in times of crisis, in times like the pandemic. But what it also shows is that the way that we listen to radio is also changing as well. It's changing away from the old-fashioned FM and AM and onto new platforms like DAB and the internet, but also online too. The future really is very much multi-platform. Podcasts don't, according to Spotify's own figures, harm music listening. But the extra time comes from somewhere. And different numbers from Edison Research seem to point to heavy podcast listening taking away from live radio. So as we've seen, radio is strong. 9 out of 10 people are listening to the radio every single week. But a lot of radio listening is now on new platforms, on DAB and online, and that will continue to be the case. audiences are demanding more choice and more control. So today, I'd like you to think about what content we make and whether the content we make works brilliantly on FM and DAB, or also on demand and on the internet. Are we right to take bits of live radio and chop it up and use that for on demand? Or are we better thinking about making great content that works both on demand and live on whatever platform our listeners are enjoying? Well, I hope you have a great day today, and I hope you chat about lots of things, and I look forward to being at another WorldDAB GA at some point in some country in the future. But for now, well, I'm not allowed to go anywhere, so I guess I should make some friends here, I suppose. Do you want some food? Do you?